Oh, let me see. And there is Tony. Good morning, Amy. Good morning, Tony and Tony's cat. Good morning, Ashley.
Hello.
Hello, there you are. Amy has company. Hi, Amy.
Yeah, good. Everybody's, still around.
My husband is right here. My one dog is out here, so I'm out.
Well, I'm surrounded by cats.
You're surrounded by cats.
They will probably greet us at some point. Although one's in a grumpy mood.
Uh-oh. My dogs are all 80 pounds and big.
Oh, yeah, one just got on the computer.
Yeah. Oh.
I'll stop fighting with your brother.
Pardon me?
Oh, she's fighting with her brother. She's in a grumpy mood.
Oh. Good morning, Ashley. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good too. Thank you.
Aristotle.
So I can say Ashley and Amy, Tony, I've had them before in courses, and it's been fun to listen to your scenarios and how, the similarities and to see their progressions and where they are, and then to see how you're able to analyze them from, where you all are, and to see, how you guys have grown in your own abilities and whatnot. So that's exciting to me.
And my continuous dumpster fire.
Yeah, huh? Yeah. I'm sitting here trying to watch time. Okay, we're at 8:31. Who's her? I can't watch her if she goes off. Oh, you're gonna get her in there? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sorry.
I'm glad you also have animal issues.
Yeah, our dogs are Old English sheepdogs, and they wander. And so they'll wander, and they go after squirrels, cats, hang up cats. And if they see people with dogs, woof, woof, woof. So we have to just be vigilant out here because we use our back door, and it's like a patio. I've named it a patio. And so we're right here on our side street. So he's like, "Oh, I'm leaving her with you." Wait, no, don't. Okay, so go ahead, Tony, one more thing.
Do your animals leave you little presents? Mine like to leave me little presents by the door.
I think that might be a cat thing.
Yeah, me too. Okay. So I wanted to say something. I was talking to my Bill this morning, and it was like, oh wow, I have even more language or different way of thinking. And Tony, I was thinking about your interchange with your minister, and that phrase, "I'm not being fed," and I told him there are like flag phrases, right? That when we use particular phrases or people use them for us as ministers or church leaders or whatever, immediately our defenses go, "Oh no, wait a minute." And not being fed is one of those. And every time I've heard that, "I'm just not being fed, Pastor," I wait for the next, whatever that shoe is, whether or not there's a shoe, and it's not so much that the shoe is going to drop. It's like the shoe is going to kick me in the butt in some way. And yeah. And, to talk about butts and whatnot, when Jesus, he was pretty humorous, when you get to read him in the Greek, and that some of the the idioms and whatnot that he played with and what were considered to be jokes back then. When he says, you know, someone slaps you on one cheek, turn the other, you know, give them your other, but the other could be like your physical other, you know, and so if they smack you on your face cheek, give them your other, could be your butt cheek, you know, and you know, don't let the back door knock you in the butt as you're walking out of it. Or sometimes you just want the back door to knock them on their butts. So anyways, I'm calling these red flag phrases. And if you ever go into search and call, and when you fill out the ministerial profile, you have to write these little paragraphs. And what I have found in those paragraphs are red flag phrases or yellow flag phrases where you can write it, it's totally innocent. You may even think it's gonna like, wow, whoever's gonna be reading it, but the reality is a search committee will read it, or somebody on a search committee will read it and go, what? And so a flag them. So one of the things I've done a lot over the years is read people's paragraphs for flags. You know, having worked with a lot of search committees in regional positions, I just know some of the questions that a search committee will ask about a candidate because of something they read and flagged their attention. So as ministers then and church leaders, we want to be aware of our own red flag and yellow flag phrases that someone may say to us that will catch us. And then how do we de-escalate that within ourselves? You know, we think about de-escalation with someone else, but how do we de-escalate within ourselves and say, okay, that might not be what they really meant, or be reactive to them, or just wait for the next shoe and whatnot. So it's okay, so knowing our own red flag phrases, and then congregations have red flag phrases. Change and words. Change, right? Whatever we do, we never want to use the word change in front of a congregation. It's gone, you know, you just hang it up. So we find those euphemisms, I can talk, euphemisms to toss out there. So Tony, what I think happened with your pastor, I think there were a number of things. There were a number of things. So she got flagged. She just, and now we get to see within your post, within Tony's post, how we can react, like how as church leaders, any kind of leader really, but that I'm not being fed is just that church thing. So how that can happen, and the negative side of that, right? Where that will catch us. Another part that I'm seeing in that situation is just like you said, Tony. So many of us ministers and church leaders think we're the end all be all. And I'm trying to think, I just read this, and maybe I posted this a couple weeks ago, or Ashley, I could have tossed it out in our last course we were together, but it was by Seth Godin, and it was about being indispensable. That, you know, we think we're indispensable, but everybody's dispensable. We just want to be missed. Like, so if we were to leave, we think, oh, I can't leave because I'm indispensable, or they won't fire me because I'm indispensable. But what we really want to do is be able to we have to realize we're not indispensable, but we want to be missed when we leave, that we leave a vacuum. I know people who, I can't say her name because I can't, I don't want to, but Barbara, okay, we'll just name her Barbara for now. Not her real name by any stretch of imagination. Anyways, when she is around you, you just get all, you get her attention, and she carries so much energy with her. But she has lots of irons and lots of fires. And so she'll be with you for a while and you'll be her friend and all these things. But then she's on to her next piece. And then when she's gone, you're like, oh my gosh, and there's even for me, there was a sadness about it. And I talked to someone who has known her for decades and decades and decades. And he said, oh no, Chris, has happened to me so many times. The thing is that she comes with so much energy. And when she leaves, it sucks that energy away. So not only what are you doing? I can't wait to see what my husband's about to say.
No, I'm laughing because the description is exactly who it is. And you didn't use her name. It's like, that's her.
Can you hear him? He said, he's laughing, giggling. He said, you didn't say her name, but your description, I know exactly who it is. And he does. He really does. I mean, it's just so there. Anyways, so ministers, and particularly solo ministers in small churches, and we're going to find it in a lot of our leaders who have been our saviors, right? Who are so used to being the end all be all. We really fear shared leadership. We think the church will fall apart if we're not there to hold it together. And if anybody even suggests in our mind that that's the case, then we get really defensive about it. So,
because I never meant to attack her. I've always thought I was very supportive of her ministry. I have lots of ideas, like when I get excited. And I even offered to teach the class, and I felt like out of nowhere, she's like, whooshwa.
Yeah. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. And especially in, as you pointed out, these smaller congregations. And we'll talk more about this. I'm trying to think just in coming weeks, that there are all these different, if you will, levels of leadership. And there are some ministers who just aren't capable, who don't have the leadership capacity, forget skill. They don't even have the capacity to be the level of leader that's needed to be able to work with the dynamics of a larger congregation. And one of the more difficult conflict interventions I had to do in a church was that it took me a while. I just remember sitting there with the executive committee and it striking me. The minister that they had on a scale of 1 to 10 in leadership, the minister's capacity for leadership was about a 6. So he probably didn't even have the capability. He definitely didn't have the ability to function above a 6 leadership. But that church was used to having ministers that were an 8 and a 9, and they were in a university town community. And I think one of the things that made this minister attractive to them initially was that both of his parents had been professors in universities and had been, he'd grown up as a missionary's kid out on the mission field and everything. And they just thought, wow, what he's going to bring. But he couldn't bring, even with all of that wonderful peace. And he had all of that embodied. But what they needed, they wanted and needed was a 9 leader, and they couldn't get it. And so, in that point, they really had no choice but to let him go. And you were talking, Amy, about the dark side of leadership. Those pieces started playing out in really negative ways. And the church really went through a lot of yuck before the church finally realized we do have to meet. The leadership began to realize we need to do that, and then to work their systems to be able to say, you need to go. and for him to finally realize, yeah, I need to go. So yeah, we get these ministers in these smaller congregations, not all the time, but either they're there because they don't have the capacities, and when people that have that energy, that know-how, that have like just like you have and you are, Tony, that is threatening. You know, it's at one point it's like, woohoo, look what I've got in my congregation, you know, this is really great. And then you start to realize, oh my gosh, this is bigger than me. What am I going to do? And Bill and I had to step out of our home church. We stepped out. Well, we stepped back, and then he got his first pastorate, and so we got to move, and it wasn't an issue. But we realized he was in his last year of seminary, and I was in my second year. I took a year off, so when we joined, I was in my middle, that like time off, and then going in for my middler year, second year. And but people were coming to us, and they were coming to us for ideas and bouncing ideas off of us. And again, it took a little bit for us to realize, oh my gosh, things that they wanted to do, and our minister was, you know, just laissez-faire and riding out to his retirement in 2 or 3 years. And we didn't want to usurp him in any way, but our own energy and enthusiasm and church, you know, geekiness and everything caused us to realize we've got to step back. We don't want to usurp our minister. Yeah. So Tony, that can be one of those tough things, is we're in congregations that don't want to do what we need. And then we have to say, okay, I need to find a congregation that has what I need.
And as a queer person in a very small town, the Disciples Church is basically all there is. Our town has 100 churches, but that's really the only church in my community that I'm welcomed at, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes a lot of sense to me. A lot of sense. Do you have any UCC congregations there?
No, not in this part of the state. And the northern part of the state where Germans from Russia settled, yeah, you'll have some UCC congregations. But in the side of the state, it's strictly disciple.
Remind me, you're in Oklahoma. I don't know Oklahoma very well. Where in Oklahoma are you?
I'm in southern Oklahoma.
Oh, down near Texas, kind of like?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me again the name of the town.
Ardmore.
Ardmore, that's right. Oh my gosh, yeah. Bible Belt all the way.
Yeah. So I've just decided that I'm not going to give her any more suggestions.
Oh, well, I'll make a suggestion. I would go talk to her, just sit down, take her to coffee, tea, Coke, whatever, and Coca-Cola, and say, you know, I have a sense that I may in some way have offended you. And that was never my intention. What I really wanted to say is, I really want a Bible study, you know, just you know, I'm realizing that, you know, worship is wonderful, and your sermons really, you know, I said, well, I'm not being fed. It wasn't, it's your sermons. It's just, I want more, you know, I'm used to, or I'm excited about the Bible and want to spend some more time with that. And that's why I offered to lead a Bible study.
And in the disciples context, you know, I don't expect a minister to do everything. I expect, well, the elders to do quite a bit of stuff. To me, the minister's there, you know, to teach and you know, do those sacramental things, but it's the elders who are really going to do that pastoral care and things of that nature. And somehow our church has gotten
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And it is part of that clergy snobbery. I mean, really, we don't realize we're being taught that, but it's inculcated in us, right? It's infused into us in seminary. And we study. Wait a minute, you can't hear me? Are you? Uh-oh. Oh, are you hearing me? No. Can you all hear me? Amy, can you hear me? Ashley, you can hear me? Tony. Okay, enable. I'm sorry, Tony, I never knew I could have live. That's cool. I never knew that you could have live transcription. There we go. I was saying that our seminaries, whether they or we know it or not, are teaching us to be solos. We're not taught how to be multi-staff ministers. We're not taught how to work with staff at all. We're not taught business or business administration. Some, but not staff workings and the like. So that we leave out business principles. We're not taught those at all. So then and that just by its very nature, along with a whole lot of other stuff, is teaching us that we have to do it all. It's all on us. And if it fails, we fail. And you'll hear my husband say, everything rises and falls on leadership. And that's true. It is true. But being a leader doesn't mean that you do it all. A good leader raises other leaders, works themselves out of a job, and it was Ashley or Amy, Ashley, yeah, about delegating. We hear delegate. No, that's delegation says, I'm giving you my work, or you do this and you do that. Delegation, or it's not delegation, it's leadership says, I'm raising you up. I'm saying, whoa, these are your gifts. This is what you have capability and ability for. And I want to say, I'll say those. Okay, Tony, you may not know this, and Amy and Ashley, you may remember. I speak randomly. I'm very random, so you'll see me go in different directions. But there are three components to whether or not we can do a ministry, or a person can do a ministry. And it's the same, a position, right? And they are a capability, capacity, and ability. Capability, capacity, and ability. Capability says they can do the job, right? They've got skill, they've got knowledge. They may need more skill or knowledge, right? And that's what capacity is. Do they have the capacity to take in skill and more knowledge to grow in their position? And hopefully y'all know that you may be very capable, but we always have to be growing, right? Again, Bill and I were just talking about this. We're outside, we have breakfast out here every morning that we can. And I've been really interested in something called neuro-linguistic process, NLP. And I have it's not neuro, it's neuro, N-E-U-R-O. But I've had a course for 2 or 3 years, correspondent course that I haven't taken and haven't completed, and I really want to do it. NLP is similar to, it's it's a lower stage of hypnosis, but it's how we speak to people and move people along. And I think it's got so much potential for church, for moving churches ahead or off center, and ministers too. So it's the patterns that we use, the words that we can use to help you be aware in a different way, to see things, and then to start saying, oh yeah, maybe that could work, right? Until you're on board. NLP. So that's that continuing piece, because for me, I keep seeing it again, how it can be used with churches and transitions and with people who don't want to move off center or grow. That's got to do with capacity. Do I have the capacity to learn and grow? The third is ability. And often we confuse ability with capability. We ask, is that person able to do it? Ability, though, is more akin to availability. Are you able to do it? And this is really hard for people to say, you are capable, but I don't see you're being able to do it at this time. Ability is, can you fully avail yourself, or as fully as possible, or as fully as we need you to be available? Are you able to do that? What gets in the way of ability are dynamics such as our children's schedules, our work schedule, whether or not I'm sick. Rick, and if Rick were here, he would tell you this himself. He's got a lot of things that he's juggling right now, and a potential move, a wonderful new job change. I mean, there are just all these dynamics, and he's not able to take the course right now. Is he capable? Oh my gosh, yes. Does this man have capacity? Oh my gosh, yes. And I'm really excited that he was able to say, I'm not able to take the course right now, right? And that's part of self-care. Now, when we're asking somebody or considering whether or not somebody can do something or not, a lot of times if you're sitting around a table with people and you're considering people, say in not a search committee, say in a, what are they called? Nominating committee, in a nominating committee situation, and people will start to say, oh, he can't do it. His children are his kids really need him. Oh, she can't do it because of her job, blah, blah, blah. I always say, don't say no for people, right? Because a lot of times we knock people out, let people say no themselves. But when I ask people to do something, I always say to them, remember, you can tell me no, and it's okay. I know you have a lot going on. These things are going on, and you are so capable. And I know you'd be fabulous, but this may not be the time for you. And the time is not going to go, the opportunity is not going to go away into the future. So they always have permission. You have to give them verbal permission to say no to you. So now that I've completely digressed, I know I don't remember from where. I don't know where I was going. That might be one of the wonderful things about this transcription. I could go back, but I don't know how. Yeah. So do you guys, I'm sitting here talking, blah, blah, blah. Do you have questions about that? Thoughts?
So I do have a question. Is there so someone's really motivated to do this ministry, but maybe they don't have the capacity. So, and I never want to say, tell someone, just shoot them down. Is there a way we can find a ministry they can do and transition them to that? So maybe someone who's not suited to be a senior pastor, but maybe they can do pastoral care, they can do youth ministry, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, there is. there are a number of things that we can do. Let's see, what can we do? I believe wholly in annual reviews, but part of annual review is asking what their high points and what their low points are, and trying to, where did they think that they did really, really well, and where did they think they did not so well. And in listening to that, I mean, it really is about being, I'm going to say bold, but maybe the better word is courageous, because bold is, in this context, I think is too strong a word, but getting comfortable, or as comfortable as we can within discomfort, because this is hard stuff to say, excuse me, but to be able to say to them, I'm wondering if, part of why that hasn't been the best experience for you is because you might be better in this position, right? It depends though on being able to say and have a sense of, if not here, then where, right? If not here, then there. I had I can't tell you because I don't think you'd know who, I know you wouldn't know these people, but I won't tell you where. But it's one of the churches I pastored. And I had two people who were graduating seminary. They were in the same class. One was on my staff, one was not. The one on my staff was amazing, absolutely amazing capability, capacity, ability across the board. The other one, not. And the other one really had no business being ever in a senior pastorate. And I'm not so sure. He'd make a good, and makes today a good chaplain there to kind of close the church, or to grow it down to where it's going to close, in the not too distant future. And you could see that. And the regional commission on ministry had real questions about whether or not he should be ordained. And they were holding off on granting ordination to my staff person, to the other person. And this fellow, I mean, I had enough staff to be able to share my pulpit. So like I preached 3 Sundays a month, and one of my associates preached the 4th Sunday. And then that one staff person, she would preach the 5th Sundays when there was it. And this other person wanted to preach too, but we were a go and grow in church. And so we needed a certain level of preaching, and we're always getting visitors, and he just wasn't there. So to be able to give him the pulpit, and I was working with other ministers, where he could preach and get, it was getting more preaching experience, that he didn't belong. He didn't have that capacity to be in a larger church. Anyways, the commission on ministry didn't want to ordain the other person because they thought that she would feel badly. And finally, the chair of the commission came and we talked, and he said, we're just not sure. And I said, then tell him that, but if you don't believe he's called to ordain ministry, what do you think he's called to? So that's an important part in leadership, is if not here, then where, and looking at their gifts. And we do a lot with spiritual gifts inventories in a lot of our churches, and we're like, oh, let's do a class and spiritual gifts inventory, or let's do this, but then we don't do anything with them. We give them to the people and woohoo. What we need to be doing is keeping those at hand, or putting them into database. That's what I've done in a couple of churches. I would keep them in a database, and then we would use them at nominating time and look and see who has those gifts, who has the experience, or not just church experience, but life experience. I want somebody who we had our primaries a few weeks ago, and I voted for someone because they had, because it was like for auditor, I think. And I voted for that person because he was the only one who had auditor experience. So, that's what made sense. We want that same thing. So, so we look, what kind of leadership skills do we need? What are they? We look at that person, and we may not see leadership skills, then maybe they can be on a team. And as we develop apprenticing opportunities and places, then we put them there. Okay, you're not quite ready to facilitate the Christian education team, but wow, I can see you in the children's team or the youth team. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Yes, good. And that's so important. We burn people out by being in the wrong place, right? Yeah. And it's exciting to me to be able to help them, to help them find where they can shine, right? We're part of our responsibility in church is to help people become who God's created them to be, but it's also to prepare them and as church to do what Jesus needs us to do, right? So why did God create them as they are, given the gifts that he has, and then how is Jesus needing them, wanting them to use that in the here and now? But we're so busy writing sermons and having to get the next program rolled out and make sure we have Sunday school teachers and worrying about who's coming to church and how few people, and are we going to meet the budget and blah, blah, blah. And it's not easy. Oh my gosh, it is so not easy. But again, this is why I believe in coaches and consultants, to do some reprioritizing so we can say, okay, where can I carve out at least a little bit of time to be able to concentrate over here on what really matters, right? What really is going to make the differences. Yeah. We talked about stewardship this week. That conversation was up there in finances, and that stewardship isn't just a one time of the year deal. And I've seen I haven't seen it lately, but there was a push or a movement to do it twice a year, one in the fall, and the second one after about March or so you can play off the coming of Easter, Lent, like let's fast from our spending so we can give the money to the church. But it's also about the time people are beginning to pay off their credit card spending from Christmas, so they have a little extra cash, and you're coming into to getting your tax returns are right in there, so March, April, for a lot of people, they're getting that income tax return, and you're able to play off that, right, to use that circumstance. But what about, how do we keep teaching? Generosity is a fruit of the Spirit. God expects us to give of our time, talent, treasure, and testimony, right? Rather than standing up there every Sunday. Often elders stand up there every Sunday and they read a scripture, or they use a little, there are these books. Oh my gosh, this one little church I did transitional ministry for, under the Bible in this little room, they used had a couple of chairs they could use as a chapel. There was a big Bible out there, and underneath the Bible, they'd slid one of these little books with communion and offering meditations in it. And they would go in there before the service, the elder, whoever was at the table, pull the book out and write down what they were going to say. Or sometimes they were just bold enough to pull the book out and read it while they were up front. It's like, no. We are not going to do that. I took the book one day. It was not a good move, but oh well. it actually was a very good move. It just didn't go over well at all. Yeah, so to read every single week, time, talent, treasure, testimony, right? How did you give your time? Standard work week, haha, it's 40 hours a week. What if you tithe 4 hours of your time to something Jesus needs you to do? What is that Jesus needs you to do? Let's preach on that every 2 to 3 months. Talent. How are you giving your talent? Let's put talent and time together. Can you tithe your talents? What about your treasure? Okay, you may not be able to tithe. Tithing is 10%. Is that gross? Is it net? I don't know. Talk to God about it. God will let you know what he needs from you or wants from you. And we don't want you to go broke giving 10%. So figure out if you put $1 into the plate each week. Excuse me. It's kind of interesting to me that people have been putting $1 in the plate since at least I know the 1980s. And my guess is it goes far beyond that. So, okay, $1, what percentage of your income is that? Is it 0.5%? Could you try 1%? Or how about 3/4 of a percent? And then maybe next year you could try an extra quarter and be up to 1%. So there's our treasure. And then how about our testimony? Who did you tell this week about God? If you're in a congregation, or about Jesus, if you're in a congregation that doesn't like that language, who did you tell this week about our church in a positive way? Not what you don't like. And you have to say that, right? In so many of our churches, you just have to call them on it. When I pastored in, oops, okay. 4 minutes. When I pastored in Yates Center, Kansas, there was this man, oh my gosh, Leonard Robinson, who could not stand me. And he's one of the 2 guys who came in my second week to read his pedigree to me. Mother was the first woman baptized in the church where he served in the service, blah, 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 blah. He's such a butt. And so I have this sermon called If Only that talks about how, the unforgiven daughter. It's the unforgiven daughter. And so it's about, the base scriptures, how many times do we forgive? And how, because of all of the things that I did and how horrible, I really was such a horrid teenager that my father disowned me. And so it's about how do we forgive, what unforgiveness can do to us? How do we get over when someone doesn't forgive us and whatnot? And this guy went up to the donut shop and told everybody there, all the people there for breakfast, how his minister had preached that, or not his minister, how the minister down there at the Christian church had preached Sunday about having sex with her father, which has nothing to do at all with that message. Nothing. My father was not abusive in any way. But this is what he's telling me. Why on earth would anybody want to come to that church? When he stood up there every single week and probably day in and day out and took out his vehemence on the church, was so ugly about all of that. So, I didn't know to include testimony way back then, but wow, Gary Straub, if you've heard his name, he wrote a little book about elders. I think it's called What About Elders or whatever. Yeah, Gary said to me one day about testimony, and it's, yeah, exactly. So, we give of our testimony. What did you tell someone about our church and what we're doing here? And then that could open the door. Maybe some of us don't want to say that because we're not doing anything, right? So if I say what about what we're doing down here, well, if all we're doing is worshiping and having a fellowship dinner every now and again, then there's nothing to talk about. So we need to change that. Yeah. Okay, we've got 2 minutes. Are we ready to pray? So here's what I took to do in last session. I'm going to do it today. Be prepared. Ashley, will you pray us out today? Be prepared, y'all. Okay, we're going to take turns. Ashley, it's your turn today.
Okay.
Okay.
God, thank you for this day and this time together with fellow students and our courageous leader. Thank you for the opportunity to come via Zoom to have conversation and more understanding about the lessons that we've learned this week. Be with us this weekend as people are traveling and enjoying time with family, and bring us back to this place next week and we can learn together. In Jesus' name, amen.
Jesus, amen. Thank you. Tony, for what it's worth,
I liked your kitty.
Yeah.
Oh,
I would love to see you, Tony. Think about this, okay? I'm just suggesting, think about it, and you don't have to. I would love to see you do this situation with your pastor as your focus conflict, and to do it as more than just you, but put it within the setting of the congregation, and perhaps how that is a symptom of something that's bigger going on in your congregation, and potential conflict. So you don't have to or anything else, but if you'll think about it, that would be great.
Yes, I will try to think about. I'm trying to, because I want her to feel like I'm building her up before I, so I'm going to spend the next few weeks just really trying to be encouraging and, letting her know I really support her ministry. And then once I've built her up a little bit, then maybe go back and schwa.
Yes. Okay. So in this case, you're dealing with a pastor piece. So maybe a way of approaching this, I'm talking on different layers and I apologize, is I'm just thinking about, this is such a good lesson for all of us about how to take a situation like that and how we work with the congregation. So if, say, you were the pastor and you were the pastor or lead elder or whatever, and you went to your board chair, put her in a board chair type of thinking, and she was just like, no, I don't, and I've seen that where board chairs will say, oh no, we can't do that, when it's really about that board chair not wanting to do anything. So if you think kind of like that, how do you get them, to move off that? And what you'll see then with that board chair scenario is they'll turn on the minister. Sometimes I worked again with a couple churches here in Missouri where I saw that happen. So if I think it, like I say, I think it's a good lesson for us all. And what you're talking right there, encouraging her, building her up, all of that. And as we keep moving along in these next weeks, there will be, you'll learn, you'll see even some other possible possibilities that might help. So just think about it. You can keep working with the one that that you put up there and you're working with there, but I think this other one will both be more germane to the class and that be more applicable and practical for you now, which is always what I'm trying to do in my courses, is get us to where that was germane, not German. There it is. Okay, so I'm always trying to make the courses where the students get something out of it that they can apply to their setting, and if not their setting, because sometimes what they realize is, oh my gosh, my time here is done. I need to, to move on. and then, but then it can be used in future settings. Okay. And Tony, you'll have to remind me next week about putting this transcript on, because I've never used it before. And all I had to do was push the button that said enable. And so I will push the enable button.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you. All right, y'all. I will see you on the forums. Have a great Labor Day. And remember, no posting on Labor Day either. Okay. Take it free.
Have a lovely Labor Day.
Thank you. Bye, y'all. Thank you,
Bye.
Ray and Ashley. Bye.